Good evening. It is 7 o'clock here on Monday, the 17th of May, and I'm here to give you some quick instructions about the Garden in the Bucket program that you might have and some things that have come up on conversations and emails. So what I'm going to show you first is this kit that was sent to you. This is one of our other signees that signed up for the program, and it will give you some real easy care instructions on what to do. The first thing you will want to do is you will want to look for the instruction sheets for each of your vegetables that you ordered, and that will be on this set of sheets right here. And so here's an example of the cucumber instructions. And so it tells us what to do. When you get your bucket, it's very important first to water your bucket thoroughly. So water it until water rolls out of the bottom. There is a paper towel filter on the bottom, so soil will not run out, but the moisture will. So it's important to water until that moisture level goes out. That's one of the first things that's really important to do. And so I wanted to tell you that first. And a lot of this is literally just following the instructions. Very easy. It's very step by step for you. So I have an example here with a cucumber. And so you will see the little cucumber seeds are marked for you, and you evenly space out the cucumbers around in the bucket. So you do not have very many seeds in this case because this cucumber will spread out and grow and will fill up your entire bucket. So you do not need a lot of seeds. You just need them to be evenly spaced out on the top of that wet soil. Next, you take a pinch full of wet soil off of one of the sides of the bucket, and you just literally gently scatter it on top of the seeds. That's all you have to do. So it's just important not to bury them, but just lay them on top of that moist soil and add potting mix on top of it, and then you get started. So cucumbers are really easy to go. They'll start to germinate, and it's important to keep that contents of that bucket moist every day. So it's important you can either use a misting bottle, such as an empty generic $1 bottle from the grocery store, fill it up with water, spray on top of the potting mix so you don't wash out the seeds, and keep that moist. And once the plant starts to germinate, just keep watering on the edges of your bucket and make sure once again that the container is completely watered in and the moisture goes all the way down and runs out. Our next set of instructions will be with your fertilizer, and your fertilizer has been measured out for you. This is Schultz brand. It's 20-20-20, meaning there's 20% nitrogen, 20% potassium, and 20% phosphorus. So there are even amounts of these in here. So what you do is you're going to put 1 teaspoon of fertilizer in a gallon of water in a watering can. So it's best to put the fertilizer in the bottom of the watering can, then add the water, and as that swishes around, it dissolves. And so every other week, you will water with one of these applications of fertilizer. So whether it's on a Monday every week, every other week, or a Tuesday every other week, you're constantly giving it some fertilizer every other week. Otherwise, you need to keep your bucket moist every day. It would be very tempting to walk away and forget it, but it's important to remember we don't want the sides of the potting soil and the topsoil pulling away from the side of the bucket. This is a problem because that means that the soil mix is becoming hydrophobic, meaning that when it pulls away from the sides, then water will hit the top of the soil surface and then roll off to the sides and won't even infiltrate the soil. So it's very important to keep the moisture level even every day. So that means watering pretty much every day, and sometimes in the heat of the summer, we'll take twice a day. So if you do get into a situation where the soil is very dry and it's pulling away from the sides of the inside of the bucket, you can take the bucket and you can put it in a dish pan of water, and you will let that water wick up through the bottom and start to moisten up that soil mix once again. But it's important to keep that because these plants require lots of water, no matter which crop that you chose to do a kit with. So you're going to need moist soil every day to keep this growing and keep it going well. So as your plants grow, you will need cages for your cucumber, and they do not have to be the expensive cages. They can be the cheap cages from a retail farm store, a retail store, not a problem, hardware store, the ones that may be $3 or $4 that fit right in that bucket. And that allows the cucumbers to grow up and have some structure. It's also good for the pepper plant, the little jalapeno pepper that will grow, and it'll be able to hold itself up and not flop over. It's also very important with the tomato. The tomato does need caging. This is a very compact tomato, so it's not going to grow very tall. It's designed for container gardening, so it's really important, but we want to make sure that it is staked so it does have some support. And speaking of the tomato, here is a tomato that is getting ready to go out tomorrow to a client here in North Platte. And you notice that some of the foliage is a little purple on the veins and some of the leaves. It's becoming a little nutrient deficient, and it needs to be in the ground. But we've had such cold weather out here in the West, and so you have in the Lincoln area, where we either need to plant these in the containers and bring them in, or we just hold these seedling plants going. So you notice that there's this Jiffy pot that I planted them in for you. You want to peel that Jiffy pot off. Do not plant the Jiffy pot in with your bucket, because we want to make sure that the roots go out in every direction. Sometimes you'll see advertisements for the Jiffy pot where you just plant it together. Too many times people have pulled their dead plant out and the roots never went beyond the Jiffy pot. So peel that off and use it as compost or throw it in the trash. But you want to plant it pretty much at the soil level that you found it in and let it start growing. So it's important to keep the moisture on a tomato as well. Tomatoes require lots of moisture to develop their fruit. They are an actual fruit structure, and so they will need lots of moisture to develop the tomatoes. But also it's important that they have the soil moisture level consistent to avoid what we call blossom end rot. Blossom end rot is that brown little patch on the bottom of tomatoes. What it technically is a calcium deficiency that is tied up when soil is too dry or there's too much fluctuation in the soil moisture for that plant. So that's why we have to keep the moisture level consistent and moist but not soggy every day for your tomato, and also keep it staked. So as the tomato starts to grow and develop, that is one that will take a little bit of time to get going. And once you get your first, tomato, the size of about a quarter to a $1/2 size, then you can fertilize. Tomatoes, you're going to wait on fertilizing until you get that first tomato, because we want the tomato to go into production mode. Otherwise, you'll grow a really great tomato plant, but it's not going to produce as much. So wait on fertilizing your tomato until you get that quarter to 50-cent size first tomato on your plant. And then you can fertilize with the fertilizer that has been put in your packet here. And the instructions on fertilizing, and once you get to that first tomato, is in your instructions in your packet, so you have that chance. We do have the opportunity for a freeze yet to occur here across the state. In the Lincoln area, we're getting further and further away from the chance of a frost. Our average frost date here in North Platte is the 15th of May, and we've had frosts after that. If you are along the South Dakota border around Valentine, that is up around the end of the month, as well as the farther panhandles. So they still have a ways yet to go. And in those cases, with your buckets, you can simply pull your buckets in overnight and get them out of harm's way and then pull them back out. So that is the beauty of having a container garden. with your radishes. Your radishes are called white hailstone, so they are a white radish. They're not going to be red or striped, so they are a pure white radish. Plant those first. Plant those first, let them grow. Let them grow to about the quarter size. They'll pop up and you'll see about the quarter size radish top come out and it's white. Then that's a good time to pull it. If your radishes start to split, you want to pull them out and harvest them right away. Once again, cool, moist soils help produce sweeter tasting radishes than a soil that dries out easy. So harvest the radishes, then you plant your carrots in afterwards. So you get the radishes first, which are pretty short, then you plant your carrots and they'll go through the rest of the gardening season. So these are all really easy crops to raise. Your salad bowl lettuce is the other one that I'd like to talk to you about tonight, where you simply just scatter the seeds all around in the bucket, nice and gently, and then a fine dusting of potting soil. Once again, squirt the water with your misting bottle on your newly planted seed, because the seed for the lettuce, the carrot, the radish, the cucumber are all pretty small. So we don't want to wash away your seeds on accident by watering with a lot of heavy force. So we always mist until it germinates, and then we can water a little bit more overhead. So until then, we always will water at the edge of the bucket and let that water sink in. So this is a really easy kind of concept. Once your plants are up and moving, they're starting to grow, it might be a good idea to put in some shredded hay or some straw, and that helps, one, choke out any weed problems that may show up in your bucket for any reason that we might have weeds show up. And also it keeps the soil a little cooler and helps keep the moisture retained in, and it doesn't dry out as fast. But I want to stress the importance of watering every day and checking your moisture levels, especially during the heat of the summer. And if you have your garden bucket on a concrete pad or a brick area or a patio that's going to get warm, those sides are going to dry out, and they're going to dry out faster than maybe what you think. So it's very important to check your moisture each and every day. So if you have any further questions for me, my number in the North Platte office is area code 308-532-2683. And my email address is dlott2@UNL, for the University of Nebraska Lincoln.edu. So I hope you have a great time experiencing your garden, your bucket garden projects. Ask any questions that you want on email anytime, or call the extension office, and I'll be happy to help you. And I hope to see some great pictures of some great success, and you enjoy your garden throughout the season. So one of the nice things is you'll have something growing clear till frost. If you keep your lettuce growing and you clip it off with a nice sharp paring knife, it'll grow back. And if you keep it watered and fertilized that every other week, you'll have a lettuce crop clear through the fall. Your tomatoes will be producing clear till the frost. The same with your peppers and your cucumbers. And if you want, prior to fall frost, you can bring those buckets in and get them under a plant light and keep it warm. And you could even baby those plants on throughout the winter under a grow light and keeping them warm. So once again, the office number is 308-532-2683 here in North Platte. And my email address is dlott2@unl.edu. Have a great day, and I look forward to hearing about your comments and your success. Thank you.